What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the MiddleBrotha podcast. My name is Octavius. I'm your host, and I have a good brother with us today. This is a special guest for me. I've known him for 10 plus years. It's felt like forever. A lot of people probably would have called us brothers if they didn't really see us together or didn't know our backstory. But we do have a loving father, a loving husband, a loving son, and also my brother that's good with the numbers. So, brother, if you could introduce yourself, please do.
How y'all doing, family? Gerald Witcher, self-proclaimed tax accountant, father, husband, as you said, and we definitely been locked in for a minute now. So
Yeah.
I definitely see how people would think we wasn't blood, straight up and down. But yeah, that's me.
I do appreciate you for saying blood, because that's how I look at it. I look at it as, yeah, we got different moms, we got different dads, but loyalty, trust, and honesty, that's what makes us brothers, in my opinion. But we just gonna kick it right off with the first question I always got for a brother. So what's the one thing you love about being a black man?
That's a deep question. If I think about it quickly, it would have to be the connection that I have with other black men.
Okay.
No matter, I've never met them before. No matter if I'm traveling overseas, if I'm going to the other side of the country, and it may have to do with just black culture as a whole, but having similar backgrounds, having to go through similar things coming up. You have an unspoken and just unknown bond with someone that you never met. That's probably the best feeling to have, walking out in the day as a black man, knowing that you have a strong connection with people that you've never met.
Okay. I would totally agree with that. One, because you've seen TikToks, you've seen on Instagram, YouTube, of the videos of every time a black man meet another black man, they always start with a "What's up, bro?" And then it leads to that handshake. And then it leads to, "Hey, bro, what you trying to do?" You got mad. It always leads to that.
You're right.
And I think that's also another. Like, I would totally agree with you on that one, because we all look alike. To be honest with you, you don't want to say it, but we all look alike, and we all have almost the same background as being black men. Right. And I think that with me, I think one thing that I like and appreciate about being a black man is that, like you said, you can connect very quickly. Like myself and you, we connected like that. We didn't know each other from a can of paint.
Yeah. And not to cut you off, but it's the idea that not even that we look alike as in the physical. Like, we look alike as in what we've been through, what we've seen, the type of things that we relate to. Yeah. It all just looks, if we closed our eyes and we just made a painting of things that, how we feel about certain things, or how, we look at certain things and we open them, most of them may look similar because it's just coming off of, our experiences. So that's, look alike, deep, like deep feeling look alike. Yeah.
It runs deep. I agree with you. It's not just about how we look. It's about what we've experienced with one another.
Right.
You got ancestors that has been through the same thing as we have been through. Right. And I think just that connection alone, as far as black men, is very impactful when it comes to, like, myself and you. Like, we're total opposites, but we're also the same at certain moments.
Yeah.
Like, I've noticed you can be hot, I could be ice. Not all the way ice, because I'm always hot.
It's something boiling under that ice.
It's something.
You just crack that ice if you want to.
Right. And like it was always at Arcadia, it was always if you saw me, you was either with me or vice versa. And if we wasn't together, somebody knew that, hey, I right around the corner. If G need him, he gonna be around the corner, and vice versa. And
Right.
That's one thing that I've noticed. It's like if I'm hot, you the one that's like, all right, you chill, bro. You doing too much. And I think and vice versa. Me, I was the one that was like, I'm putting fuel to the fire. Go ahead, give it to him. And I think that's one thing that I really appreciated about you. You allowed me to be me.
Right.
And I really appreciate that from you. I didn't know if you was going to say something. No? Okay. But yeah, I think that's the one thing that I loved about you at first. You saw me for me, and you accepted that. Like I could say the first time we met was at a hall meeting at Arcadia. When I said, "Can none of y'all say the N word?" You looked at me like, "This man is crazy."
It was more like, this N word is crazy.
Like, ain't nobody else can say it. I'm gonna say it.
And that's why I want to be cool with him.
And that is one question I want to ask you is, as far as us growing as Black men, like what made you gravitate towards me?
Well, I mean, I think once I got into college, so and kind of to rescale that, it's funny that a lot of people realize themselves and get the mass discoveries of things like that once they go to school and break out of their comfortable zones and things like that. But just the whole process of going to Arcadia was kind of like backwards for me. Like I never had intentions on going to Arcadia. It was just kind of like, all right, now I'm here, so now I have to make room for the experiences that I'm gonna have. So I purely went off of energy once I got onto Arcadia's campus. And if it wasn't the right energy, I wasn't going to be in nowhere near it. So, of course, when we're on a hall like we're in, and it seemed like, oh, well, this type of energy is really the only thing around here that's similar to me, or in the realm of, how I was brought up or the type of people that I came up around and things like that. So, when you gravitate off energy, you bump into people that's giving off what you give off. Yeah. So that automatically we were going to be cool just off of energy per se. Once we broke out of that and really started to know each other and, build the bond, that's, it's just kind of like how it was written. It was supposed to be that way. And I was just thinking the other day, like, man, I never even wanted to go to Arcadia. Like, I originally wanted to go to California, or I wanted to go down south to HBCU. So it's just crazy how things kind of, work themselves out and put you in the right places where, you meet people that you're supposed to be around.
Yeah. I can attest to that because I'm gonna be honest with you. My mother wanted to send me to Morehouse, and it's just me and my mom. I'm very protective, and I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna be that far.
Right.
And it's like, God must have said, "Hey, man, you might want to go there, but Arcadia right over here, and I have a better experience for you."
Right.
And I think with that space of, like you said, energy, I think that's what I was giving off, and that's what that's what you were giving off to me, was just energy of like, we here, like we got to make the best of it, and how are we going to make the best of it as Black men on this PWI?
Right.
So yeah, I
Right.
think that's one thing that caught my attention was you're calm, cool, collected. I can give it to you, but I'm chilling right now. And I think that's the vibe that you gave off to me. Like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
bro, I appreciate you. Um, but I don't know you like that yet. And I think that's one thing that I noticed. Was like you were cautious about, hey, cool, yeah, we can talk. I'll see you. And I was like, all right, cool. I'll talk to you. And then like those phases of getting to know somebody, just established between me and you.
Right. Right.
So like you said for Arcadia, you said you weren't gonna go there, but college was a way to figure yourself out. And that's the first question I got for you for In the Den is at what moment did you discover you were a black man?
So it's funny, because I told you before I had watched a couple of your other episodes,
Mm-hmm.
and what I realize is that there's a moment that you discover in a physical that you're a black man, and then there's a moment where you actually understand what it even means to be a black man to everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, and so the first part of it, discovering that I'm a black man, that came probably like middle school.
Okay.
I went to Grover Washington Junior Middle School in Alany. That wasn't necessarily in my neighborhood. I kind of went out of the way to go there.
Mm-hmm.
And what I realized was that people that looked like me wasn't necessarily majority now. So
Okay.
I was kind of now going into an area where the majority was the Asian cultures,
Mm-hmm.
and and learning that was more than just certain Asian cultures that I had known before that.
Mm-hmm.
So meeting Vietnamese people, meeting Korean people, meeting Chinese, meeting Japanese people, all in your same class.
Yeah.
Um, you still have friends that look like you, but it's not as many now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the first time where I noticed that, all right, something a little bit different here,
Yeah.
than what I'm, accustomed to just in elementary school. But I think the moment when I had to analyze what it meant to be a black man to other people when they saw me,
Mm-hmm.
was the time when you get into school, where you actually go outside of your home and you're kind of away.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, of course, for us, we
Yeah.
weren't far. We were just away.
Yeah.
Um, that's the whole thing. You go away to school.
Yeah.
So, and it's, everyone has their experiences, their aha experiences, or the head tap, where
Mm-hmm.
it's like, oh, you just got hit with a little bit
Yeah.
that you didn't expect coming. But basically, it's in a classroom. A certain topic came up of rappers using the N-word,
Mm-hmm.
and it was the moment when. So now, this is we hear the song, we hear the whole song. It was about a bunch of different things, but the one piece of the song that was brought out
Mm-hmm.
to be discussed amongst the class that
Mm-hmm.
only had 2 black people in it was, why would this rapper use the N-word? And the person that gets asked the question, of course,
Of
is
course.
one of the 2 black people in the class
Mm-hmm.
who are sitting in the back of the class
Mm-hmm.
next to each other.
Yeah.
So that moment when the question is asked and the whole class turns around and looks at y'all, you realize that the class almost puts you in a point where you must have the most valid answer to why this person that sings this song uses this word that
Mm-hmm.
we know we can't say.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it then, but after thinking back, it was more like, well, why did they think I would be able to hold all the cards to give them that answer that they was looking for? I'm not the rapper. I didn't make the song.
Right.
I mean, I know the word, and I know that I've used the word, but I'm not the artist in this. So how would I know why that artist didn't choose a different word?
Mm-hmm.
So now that leads to say, all right, well, this is not just about the artist, the song. This is about the word, and it's supposed to be mine.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now I really had to break into understand that other people looked at me as, you are this person.
Yeah.
You may or may not be this word, but you the only person that can use it. So you have to now give the explanations on this word. You have to give the lectures on, who and who can't use it, and why can't you use it, and where this word come from. So, in that moment, that was when I understood that, okay, now I'm in something different. I'm something different than, I thought I was. Like, I thought I was just, a black kid that went to school in a predominantly white woman college. But I'm not only that. Now I'm somebody that people look at and say, well, you supposed to tell us everything about this topic because you look like them.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the real moment where I probably discovered what it meant and how, that I was actually a black man. It was in that moment.
Okay. I can definitely take that moment and like break it up into like all these different sections at Arcadia to sit there and say my smack in the head moment, my aha moment, which is like what Dr. Larry's main saying is
immediately thought of it.
You're going to have that aha moment of, okay, I am a black man on a predominantly white institution. So predominantly white women, college, institution, university. And I've had those instances where I'm the only one in class.
Yeah.
And it's like Sounds of the Lamb or kids from up in the hill, they all just look at you. And you
children of the corn.
There you go. Children. See, that's why you my brother. You got my back. And it's like when you sit and you're sitting in there, you're like, I have to represent for the whole race.
Yeah.
And if I say something, it's valid. Like they have to like what else am I supposed to say?
And now you're going to be the source.
Yeah.
You're the reference now.
Yeah. You're the encyclopedia, the dictionary, the YouTube, the Google. You're all that. And if they look something up or if they research and they're like, oh, you were wrong. But it's like, that's my experience. That's what I think it is. It's my opinion. Right. Some people may take your opinion as to speaking for the whole race. And that's the part that got me was, I said, I can only be me. I can't be everybody. I can't be G. I can't be Steve. I can't be Khalif. I can't be them. Right. I can only be me. G has his own interpretation of what that word means, what those lyrics mean. Mm-hmm. I have something different. I listen to the beat first, and then I see how the music, the lyrics go with it. Mm-hmm. G may listen to the music, may listen to the words first. Yeah. So it's like speaking up for the whole race is very hard to do. It's very taxing, and a lot of people may not recognize that that's hard to do because when you're the only one, you had two. So it's like, hey, bro, you want to help me out? Like now we fighting.
That was the lucky time.
That's the lucky time. Like now you got somebody to feed off of to say, hey, I don't want to be the only one. Do you want to? Now y'all fighting, because you like, hey, bro, you're not gonna say nothing. So that's one thing that I think is big when it comes to like black men, black people in general, is that we have to, if a black man does something wrong, now that's like, oh, all y'all do something wrong. So it's like one thing is like the question I've always had was, it's not asking you, it's just rhetorical. It's like, how do we fix that? Like, how do we fix that umbrella? That's the main thing for me.
Yeah, and the reason why it really only is rhetorical because we don't have all the cards.
Yeah.
Like, it's not all in our hands to do the work to do that. Like, that is a combined work of people that look like us, people that don't look like us, both sides. So it's that's the toughest question that takes the most work. I would say that.
Okay. Now, I know I did say you're a loving father. In this moment, I am going to ask you some questions about you, your son, and your father, because that's 3 generations right there. I don't see that, and I'm glad that I get to see it through somebody else that I care a lot about.
Right.
With your son, how do you think? Because society puts a lot of things on people as they get older. How do you think you're gonna assist your son in discovering his blackness, discover his him being a black man in this world?
So that's tough because, and you know, as presently stand in the city that we live in with everything as heavily weighed on black men as a whole. That always went into, you know, even deciding to have kids, like even knowing that you're going to be raising a kid, and now not only are you raising a child, you're raising a black man that's going to have so many things weighed on him. So the biggest thing, and probably the main thing I'm going to want to instill, is the only real barometer to you know, walk in is going to be in love. Like you have to live your life on that staple. Like you have to find the things that you love, gravitate to the things that you love and that love you. And only then will you be able to, you know, understand who you are and love yourself before you can love someone else and see love because of how, you know, you've experienced it. So that's the only real thing that I can say is something that I've figured out as of present day with my son. He's going to be 1 this month.
Okay.
That's the only thing that I would say in this 12 months that I could really grasp, to know that, okay, I'm standing on this being one of your pillars. And I realistically, I think that's probably going to be the best one that I do find. But ultimately, I think for my son's road to discovery, he's going to have to operate in the space of love.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I really like that. 'Cause that's one thing that we as black men and also society in general forgets about us.
Right.
Is that we love unconditionally. When it comes to, yes, they say we're supposed to protect, we're supposed to do this, but that comes out of love. Respect, that comes out of love. So I appreciate you for saying one of his pillars will be love. And just to go off what you said when it comes to bringing a black man into this world, I ain't gonna lie to you, I'm nervous. So even though I'm not married, we've talked about kids later on down the line, and that's a nervous thing for me.
Yeah.
A black woman and a black man. I'm nervous to bring a black man in this world because when he comes out, you got to check on him already. Like we already know that, and that's a scary thing for me. But like you said, if you walk in love, if you walk by faith, if you walk by the pillars that you have as a dad 1st, I think you're going to model that for him, and I think that for you saw your dad and how he modeled and how he walked in this world, and I think for me, just watching y'all two, just the conversations y'all had, the connection y'all had, the love y'all had for one another. Yeah, your dad probably will say, "All right, man, get out of here," but he still love you. Like that mean he like that connection with y'all two means he love you, from what I've seen, and I really appreciate you for expressing that love factor because we don't talk about it. No. We don't talk about it as far as black men when it comes to like I love you, bro, or I have a son. I have to show him love in order for him to know what it looks like.
Right.
So even though I said like all these like taxing, love, expressing everything, that's the next question I got for you is how do you as a black man explore your feelings?
And it's tough. I think it's I think as I grew, I looked for different ways to explore my feelings. I think as a kid, I held a lot of stuff in, as far as like, things that I might have saw or how other people express their feelings. Because there's a lot of emotions that, go into from a birthday party being excited to grieving. There's so many things that get tied into that. And I think as a kid, I didn't necessarily know how to explore my feelings or how to tell someone how I was feeling. It was just more so, well, everybody's happy right now, so let's just be happy.
Yep.
Or this is a time where everyone's a little bit sad, so it's okay to be sad now. So I think growing and getting older, my feelings really just went into leisure time. Like, of course, anytime you saw me, I was listening to music or playing video games or trying to find an outlet to just cycle everything in my mind out through something else or wash my feelings out through music that I'm listening to, or wash my feelings out through the games that I was playing or the walks that I would take. But it's always been a tough thing for me. But I think I learned especially once I got into school and I got a little bit more on my own, that, when I get overwhelmed, they had these feelings and the emotions and all things have to be let out. It can't be held in no more. Yeah. That built up and pent up stuff, it does no good. I think I don't know when I saw the quote, but the Mark Twain quote that hate does more harm in a vessel that is stored than on which it's poured. And from seeing that quote, it was just like, you're hurting yourself much more not releasing these things and not going out. Like I think I just I watched Dame Dash recently. He was saying that people hated him because he never held anything in. immediately how he felt, you was gonna know.
Yeah.
He couldn't hold it in. But that's how he was able to move from, thing to thing and not ever feel away, because he let you know how he felt already.
Yeah.
It was never going to be anything that was held in. So feeling aspiration, super important, and just finding multiple avenues. Like I always say, it was never one thing that could just be an outlet for me. It always any and everything I kind of got my attention would be something that I used as an avenue to explore how I felt about certain situations. So
Okay, I appreciate you for saying that, because I was somewhat in the same way, where it's like, if your family is having a good time, you don't want to be the person to be like, I know I'm gonna express this right now. Like,
right.
You had your emotions, your feelings, your thoughts had to take a back seat, because you didn't want to be that family member that messes up everything. So I was kind of in that space, and then it gets to a point as you get older, you say how you feel, and then now it's questions of, where is that coming from?
Right.
Why is he saying it like this? Why is he saying it like that? And I think it gets to a point where it's like, I'm tired of suppressing my feelings, suppressing how I'm feeling and what I'm thinking. Because if I don't, then everybody's going to think everything's okay. And then it's not. You have to know that. And I think for me, like you said, walks. I think walks for me were good. I did them at Arcadia. I played the game with you. So it's like, it's things that we had to do in order to either get our minds off it or go to the chat and eat some food, get our minds off of certain things. But the best thing for me was we had each other when it got to that point. It was at some point I was like, "Hey, you good, bro?" And like vice versa. You've asked me, "You good?" Like, you quiet today. Like, me, I'm not quiet at all. And you've asked me that on several occasions. Like, "Hey, bro, like, what's going on?" And I think for me, how I explored my feelings was, my mother allowed me to express myself in a way that she actually heard what I was saying. She was listening and hearing at the same time. But then when I got to Arcadia, you kind of supported me in a way where it's like, I've never had another black man say, "Hey, bro, you good?" Because you ain't acting the way you normally acting. What's wrong? So I really appreciate you for doing that. Because it allows me to see other black men and say, "Hey, bro, you good?" Like, and have me observe, because that's what you did for me. And I want to say thank you for doing that.
Of course.
And I know for me, like I said, having a son, having a daughter, it gets to that point of you're living for somebody else. You're working for somebody else. My mom always said, "You messing with my child money, like you messing with my kids' money." So
I'm an employee. I'm an employee.
I work for my child.
Yes.
And I think that's one thing I did want to ask you is that, how is your son allowed you to explore your feelings also?
Man, there's so many feelings just from the time that he came into this world, where you see it all, you take it all in, and it's like, it's almost especially the moment where when you know that he knows you now.
Yeah.
I think it was probably one moment, literally one of those I'm gonna be up all night type of Johns, where now it's 2:30 or 3 a.m. And he looked at me like I know you now, like you're like I'm with you, like you're my person.
Yeah.
And it with someone that you can't speak to, as far as you speak, they speak back, understand, internalize everything, and speak back. To have such a broad way of expressing that, me being able to internalize it and reciprocate something to him without him even knowing the language I speak.
Mm-hmm.
That feeling in that moment was, it was everything I could ask for. But even showing emotion, like I think I get to the point where it's like when I learned what I learned, about being sad and all those different things was really like the people that I looked at or the people that I looked to, they didn't get sad.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't see them cry.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't see the soft part of so my brother's 13 years older than me, and my father, those were the male figures. I didn't see, the soft parts of them until it was like, my grandma passing or, thing. And then, I saw those things and I was like, oh, there is that exists too.
Mm-hmm.
So even, like teaching emotion to my son now, I want that to be an understanding that, these things are okay, and, you can feel this way. Like you're not different for feeling this way. Like this is natural for you to feel emotion at something that you don't like or something that is bad to you or bad for you. And hopefully in that'll kind of assist with, him being able to explore his feelings in a different way than, I allowed myself to growing up. So, man, it comes full circle when you're now trying to rewrite your upbringing to a certain extent, and nothing on how you were brought up by your parents, just more so how you felt when you were a child, like, and how the things you saw made you feel.
Yeah.
And if you thought that you were allowed to feel that way, like, am I allowed to be upset and now show that I'm upset by crying? Or do I just have to get up and brush it off and act like I'm okay?
Yeah.
But I'm really not. So those are definitely things that I'm seeing that, okay, if I feel certain ways, I want to at least be able to let my son know that, I feel that way too. If I can feel this way, you can feel this way. And that, that'll be another pillar to his growth as the years to come as well.
Okay. So I guess we just creating pillars today with you and your. Okay.
Yeah. It's tough, man. It's tough, man. You gotta play a lot of different roles, man. I'm a builder right now.
Yeah.
I'm a builder right now.
You G the builder?
G the builder, man. A lot of different roles.
I feel you. I know you talked about your brother, your father as men that you looked at. The next question I got for you for in the den is, who did you learn from, and how did you navigate society as a black man?
Well, those two men probably gave me, if I would give a percentage of my understanding of the world, and how I should move in the world. They probably gave me a good 90%.
Okay.
In of course, in completely different ways. Because I saw them in completely different ways. So, so what I got, the other piece of that question was what was the last part of that question?
How did you navigate society as a black man?
So, as far as, once I realized, who I was as far as being a black man, things that I took from them as far as like, just seeing how hard my dad worked and knowing that if I didn't see him, he was at work. Like just that mentality. Like if I didn't see this person, he was at work. And he probably got home after I was asleep, but he was coming from work. And then he was going to work before I had to go to school.
Yeah.
So so that mentality of knowing that your work ethic, no matter what you're doing, has to be at a certain extent. But then the other piece to not only because of who you are and, because of your environment, your awareness has to be your main piece of operating. And I probably think that's probably the most major thing that I take with me from my childhood was that hearing my father say, you have to be aware of your surroundings, no matter what you're doing, no matter what situation you're in, or how much fun you having.
Yeah.
You have to be aware of your surroundings. But learning it then was just like, all right, yeah, when I go to school, when I'm walking home, I know where I'm going. But really adding the layers to it as you getting older and starting a family and, buying a home and traveling out of the country and doing all these different things, it grows to a point like, man, this is I didn't even realize this is a pillar of my life. Like, man, I built my whole life on just something somebody kept saying, like just kept saying. There's countless moments where it was like that. And just, inherently I learned it that I must navigate this way because, there's no other way to exist as a black man today without being aware and knowing what type of situation that you're in. And of course, like, seeing my brother and seeing, and knowing who he was to me at the time, like I wanted to do exactly what he did. Like I wanted to be exactly where he was. I wanted to, which you think somebody 13 years older than you, not necessarily want to have the kid all the time, but I didn't know nothing about that. I just knew that you was my brother, and like I wanted to have that relationship. Before I knew what a brother relationship was supposed to be, like I knew if it was anything like how I wanted to be like this person, I knew that that's the type of relationship I wanted to build when I grew up.
Okay.
So I think those two men definitely were the biggest pieces to, my growth as a black man, but also how I learned how to navigate was through just primarily off of those two guys.
Okay. And I've watched you and your brother interact. I want to say it's yin and yang, like y'all are total opposites, but it's like y'all are the same when it gets to a point of family, love, and being there and being a presence. I've seen that from all three of y'all. Because your dad, if he was available, he was going to show up. Same thing with you. Like if you're gonna say I'm gonna be there, you're gonna show up. If you like, hey, bro, I ain't gonna be able to make it. All right. I know you're doing something else that's either beneficial for you or your family.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's been several times that, hey, bro, I got this going on. I can't make it, bro. I got to do X, Y, and Z. Bro, no problem. Like, no problem. I'll catch you at the next one. If I don't catch you at the next one, we're going to catch up at some point.
Right.
And I think that's the best thing around myself and you. A lot of people get hung up on, oh, I don't talk to my friends like that. Oh, I don't see them every day. Bro, I can see you tomorrow, and then a month later, it's like I saw you yesterday.
Yeah.
And like that's one thing that I love about our connection, and I've seen that with you and your dad, you and your brother, and now you and your son. You're going to be there for your son because you saw your dad do it for you. You saw your brother do it for his son. So it's like the black men that you have in front of you are models for you. Right, wrong, flaws, exceptions, excellence. That's what you see. And that's what I love about the black men that have been in front of me, is that I saw the good and bad. I saw all of it. So now what? After you see all the good and bad from these black men, how do you navigate this world? And I've had a lot of brothers say, "Oh, I navigate this world very carefully." That's why I love when you said be aware of your surroundings, but also be aware of yourself. And when you said as you grew older, you were more aware of your surroundings and yourself at the same time. And now you have to be aware of your son and his surroundings. So for me, I would say my Black Mount Rushmore is, I would say my Uncle Tiger. You know my Uncle Tiger. My Uncle Mace. Pop-Pop is somebody that I call Pop-Pop from my daycare provider, my Grandma Bootsy. My Uncle Mace and my Uncle Mark. So like those are black men that when you look at these black men, I can say I got love to how to express love from my Uncle Tiger. Black love from Pop-Pop because they've been together for ever since I've been born and beyond. You have pride in your last name from my Uncle Mace. You also have Mr. Koger. I don't know if you met him yet, but that's a gentleman's man. Like he's going to open the door for you. He's going to pull out the seat. He's not going to let you pay for stuff. So like that's being a gentleman, but also respecting the person that's in front of you. And then also my Uncle Mark. He's a scholar. He speaks very well, but he doesn't code switch. He's like, I'm going to give you what I'm going to give you. If I'm in a certain setting, okay, I can do that. But I'm going to also talk to you like, hey, you messed up at this moment. This is how you can do better. So that's what I call my Black Mount Rushmore, is these black men right here. It's like they've known me all my life. And now when I get past them, it's like, now who is it? Like I got you, I got your dad, I got your brother, and I got other black men that I've worked with or networked with. So I do appreciate you for expressing that those two black men are the black that molded you into the black man that you are right now. And I am gonna slide into this next segment of who you repping, and I know you probably heard of because you did your homework because you're flowing right with these questions. So with rep is representation, expectations, and perception. So the first question I have for you, I know I called you a loving father, a loving husband, and loving son, and my brother. Those are hats that I would say that you wear. I wouldn't say they're masks that you put on. Those are hats that you wear at certain moments. How do you represent those identities throughout the day and throughout the year?
And I did do my homework. So it's kind of actually why I wore the shirt that you gave me so kindly. My dad and accountant, that's the only thing it's missing. It's missing husband in there, which I think that had to
it's
be,
in there.
It would have to be just as big a font as dad, just because of how big of a hat. Yeah, it probably engulfs the other hats.
Yeah.
But it's a big job because I think at the core of it is how do you represent these hats without losing your identity? And I think that's probably at the heart of how, I represent myself, one, and, all that it means to be me. And then, how that relates to me as a husband, me as an accountant, me as a father. But it is just as it is right there. It's just staying true to me. I'm never going to, as an accountant, give advice to somebody about something that I wouldn't do.
Yeah.
Like, if it's out of my realm, I can only give you the advice because I know the material. But, and just how I was when I worked in retail, when, I was showing people, the type of systems and things that, they may like. I would be explaining these things to people. They always say, like, and I hated the term salesman because I wasn't a salesman. I was a showman.
Yeah.
I was going to show you what we had. And I was going to show you how it worked. And I was going to show you a good reason why you probably should get it. But ultimately, I wasn't going to make you get nothing. I was going to, give you the understanding of, why it makes sense.
Yeah.
And, if I had it, it makes sense for me too. I'll get it myself.
Yeah.
And, and that was just, how I stayed true to myself. Going beyond and going over and above is when, people lose themselves. And, you go so hard in one of your hats that on the other side of it, you lose what your identity was. And, I always kind of wrestled with when I took on so many different jobs at the same time, or, we're doing a lot of things with, how do I do this without overextending me? And not being watered down by the time I get to the next, situation. And a lot of times that made the outcome of that was, I ain't gonna make it. Or the outcome of this is, look, by the time I get here and by the time I do this, by the time I give 100% to this, I'm not going to have it for this. Or it's no way I can do that because I have to do this. So realistically, it's, knowing, preparing to give 100% of you to everything you want or you have or what you agreed upon beforehand, which for me, becoming a father, I agreed to give 100% of myself to. Becoming a husband, I agreed to give 100% of myself to. Being an accountant and getting on the course of becoming a CPA is something I agreed, to myself that I have to give 100% of myself to in order to accomplish. Is the only way that I know how to maintain those hats and still have my identity, when I come home at the end of the day. So that's the main way I operate, going back and forth in between, being these different G's.
And that kind of I was thinking about Genuine when he said all I can be is me. I can just be me. Day after day I continue to be. It just so happened your name G, and he said I can just be G. That's what I thought about when you just responded the way you did. Yeah, that's the only response I can give is from I can just be me. And yes, you have all these hats, but at the core of it is Octavius LaVon Blount. At the core of it is G. To a lot of people, you're G. To me, a lot of people, you're Gerald.
Yeah.
To your son, your dad. To your wife, hey man, you all of that. Like for your wife, and your parents is that's my son. Like that's my baby.
Right.
Like that's just what it is. But at the core of it, you can only be you. Like you said, Dame Dash said, I can't do that. Like I gotta be me. I'm gonna give you all of me.
Yeah.
So that that leads into my next question is because you may have expectations, your wife, your son, even though he can't speak it, he may have expectations. So what expectations do you have for yourself? And what expectations do you think others have on you?
Well, ultimately, it's funny because we always had quotes for each other, and we always had
they're on the wall.
Always had different ways, but the funny thing that I think about all the time was the skit that Seinfeld has on Wale's album for the matrimony song, where he asks him about, "Are you ready? Do you ever know you're ready for marriage?" And Seinfeld says, "No, you're not. You're never ready because it's growth."
Yeah.
So the only thing you can expect of yourself is that you're going to grow in this. You're going to grow in this. When you say "I do," you're going to grow after this. When you have a son, you're going to grow as a person. Once you come out on the other side of that degree, you're going to grow. Your mind is going to grow because it's going to have learned whatever you took from it. So I only expect that I'm going to grow in what I do. Now, as far as what people expect of me, I personally think that they should expect the unexpected.
Okay.
and that's another piece that I love about being Black, is that there's a lot of expectations that people have for Black men.
Yeah.
But I always like being unpredictable.
Yep.
Like I would love to have done something that you didn't expect. Like I would have loved to, unwrite whatever you thought I was going to be. Or when you saw my name on a resume and I come up and I'm not white, because you didn't know what to expect when you saw Gerald Witcher.
Yeah.
Like it's that's real. It's an idea that, when you put expectations on somebody, you have one thing in mind, but once they give you something else entirely, you got to live with it, and now you got to think like, well, maybe I shouldn't have that expectation, or maybe it was something a little off about the expectation that I had. So I personally think that, the expectations of other people that have for me, maybe they should just be limitless. Maybe it should just be, you don't have to have, a certain select few expectations for this person. Maybe you can just expect them to do something unexpected. That's personally what I would think.
Okay. I feel you on that one, because I always say Black men, Black people, but Black men as a whole are a mystery. A lot of people don't know what you're going to do when you walk in. They don't know what you're going to talk about. They don't know what knowledge you got in your head, what facts you got. So I commend you for that, because that definitely leads to my next question, which is, how would you like people to perceive you and also other Black men? Because you talked about expectations should be limitless. So people perceive you in a way. How would you want them to perceive you and other Black men?
Well, I would want them to. Would want them to perceive them how they once perceived themselves. They perceive themselves as somebody's that set out to do certain things, pass or fail.
Mm-hmm.
But they knew that, through it, they was going to go either way. They was going to
Mm-hmm.
grow. So, when you look at somebody, if you're looking at them in a hat of a black man, or you're looking at them in the light of being a black man, why not just look at them as a reflection of someone that's growing,
Mm-hmm.
someone that's, not who they was yesterday, someone that has infinite amount of things that they can do tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Especially people that, lost their life too soon. Like they had so many different ways that they could have gone, so many different things that could have gone in their favor, if they had the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So I think ultimately, if you look at someone in that realm, it's not going to matter if they're black or white, male, female, it's going to be, all right, now this person is someone that's growing or on a path to be more than who they were.
Yeah.
If you start just there, you're automatically rewriting the understanding of who we were.
Mm-hmm.
You're automatically rewriting the understanding of, why am I thinking of this person as this, if I just looked at them as, okay, this is just somebody else that's just trying to start from the ground up and move forward, So ultimately, I would just want myself, people that look like me, and my family, as as that grows, to be perceived as people that are growing, people that are growing.
Okay, I love that, because it's also recognizing that black men are human, and that you left me speechless, because I'm normally not speechless. I've said this to other people on the podcast, but that specific question and how you answered it, I have nothing else to say for that, because that's how we all should look at ourselves. Like, yes, we can say, for like a better word, we suck right now. Like, like you can say that for yourself, but that's bringing you down. You're just saying, hey, look, I got to learn from that. I'm growing, like you said. And that's why I said I appreciate you for saying it, because we forget that. I know I do. I forget to tell myself, hey, bro, you still growing in this podcast space as a black man, as a fiance, as a son, just a person in general in society. You're still growing and you still have time to learn. And I think I'm going to take that and just continue to say that to myself, because I've never said that to myself. I've had other people say it. But it's like, how you said it and how you brought it to this space is very helpful on my end, because now I can have something to say from another brother. Hey, bro, you still growing. Stop doing that. You're just going to dig yourself into a deeper hole. And I'm be honest with you, throughout the whole pandemic, that's what I was doing. It was like just digging yourself into a hole to say, are you good enough? Are you supposed to be where you are at the age that you're at? But when you look at Instagram, when you look at all these stuff, they show the end result of the process that they went through. And I think that's the one thing that I love about what you said, is that as a black man, you want people to perceive you as just growing as a person first, and then as a black man. So I appreciate you for saying that, bro. So the next space and the reason why this podcast is going and moving is, one, because I've seen tension between black men when it comes to different generations. Myself and you are in the middle. That's why it's called the MiddleBrotha podcast, is because I'm just bringing black men together just to show how we can grow together, and also how we can actually listen to each other. So for this space, I'm going to ask you a question when it comes to either providing advice to the older generation on what you're hearing from younger brothers, or vice versa. Or you can say, hey, bros, I'm giving advice to all of y'all. So if possible, it doesn't have to be three, but if you give three pieces of advice you would give to the older generation, the younger generation, or just both in general.
So I think probably I think most of what I've seen kind of in that space, as far as like the clashing you talk about, deals when you talk about violence and things that may occur in communities. And I would say one piece of advice, well, wholeheartedly, I think the main piece of it that has to exist on both sides is understanding. So on the top end of it, I think the older generation, and it's funny because I'm in, like, myself. I put myself in that, where I think I said probably, like, I remember 10 years ago coming out of high school, I said, yeah, these kids coming up after us are going to be crazy. Like, it's going to be they're because they're just very, but it's not being understanding of the situations that they are put into and what they're given to operate. And now 10 years later, just to see what's like these kids that are now grown, and, that and all these situations that surround about young kids and shootouts and all these different things, are just it comes from what I was saying to myself then, but what I didn't have was the understanding of the situations. But as going further than that is, for the older generation, is along with the understanding is you can't just write the kids off. Like and I think it was I forget the author and the context, but and then of course this stems from courses that I took, but around the generation that went into World War I, and came back after the war, they labeled them as the lost generation. Like, they were young men and women. They were young men that came back, either had disabilities, couldn't get jobs. They were in these situations and they just got into mess. Like, they didn't really get back into the working environment as as working families and things like that. So they labeled them as a lost generation, like, because they didn't add anything to their communities. But in that, you're just writing them off. So it's a resurgence of that idea when we look at the millennials and down. It's a certain piece to the older generation labeling the younger generation as lost. And it's like, you're in doing that, you're almost writing off these kids, like saying they're never going to be, or it's no helping. Where if you don't put the time and have that line of communication, you're never going to get there. Like, there's never going to be any solace. There's never going to be any bridge that gets built. And then on the other end, going back to understanding, the kids, they have to understand that they know what they're talking about. They do know what they're talking about. They were here. They didn't have the internet, but they knew if they had the internet, it would be crazy. Like, the type, their communities and things, they would operate differently if they had those things that you have now.
Mm-hmm.
So why not try to communicate and understand what the older generation is, think about. Doing what you're doing right now ain't getting you nowhere.
Yeah.
So why not, just give time to understand, the ways the older generation navigated and what they did wrong, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's ultimately what we're doing is we're just continuing the same cycle. We're continuing to pass down the same ideals, and we're continuing to do the same things. We're never breaking any of the curse if we're not trying to right the wrongs or understand, what went wrong the first time.
Yeah.
So I would say really understanding is going to be the ultimately the pieces on either side that allows that communication to eventually succeed. You have to have some type of understanding. You have to not write people off as unhelpable or just lost. And you have to be willing to listen. You have to be willing to open up that that line of communication in order to get, what you haven't learned or what you haven't saw or, what you don't currently see because you're in the mix.
Yeah.
You're doing the same thing every day. Why not listen to someone that did the same thing for more days than you?
Yep. They've been around the block more than you.
Right. So those will probably be the major pieces of advice.
Okay. I appreciate you for saying that because that definitely leads into the next question, but it's also how I feel as well. The older generation don't get tired. Like I know y'all tired of saying the same thing, doing the same thing, trying to grab these young men and be like, "Hey, let me talk to you." Please don't get tired, wiser men, because they don't like to be called old. And then the younger generation, y'all got to understand that they know a little bit more than you. Yes, you got the internet and everything is like that, but they've been around the block plus the internet.
Right.
So that's just adding to what they know. And I love you for saying that, bro, because that's just what it is. Y'all got to listen and understand, but y'all also got to not let them go. Y'all got to hold on tight because the world going to grab them. And that's the one thing we don't want. And I do want to ask this question. You may say the same thing, but it's fine. But based on what you've seen and experienced, what's one thing Black males can do to grow together?
Well, I mean, ultimately, growing together doesn't start until you start to communicate the problems. That's step one. I think that was the sentiment I had took from. I think you had just sat down with the brothers on the BlackMen mental health, and that was the piece. You have to be able to the closed mouth don't get fed. You have to be able to communicate. The current situation you're in, what you need, how can I help? And I mean, that's ultimately, where any type of movement starts. It starts on that level. So once you communicate, you can at least plan to do things, organize, and execute. But I mean, communication is going to have to be, but you can't get to communication if you don't think there's a reason to even talk, because you don't understand you don't get where they coming from. They don't get where you coming from. Like, so now you just two magnets and y'all just y'all on opposite ends and y'all never going to communicate. So talking, you got to have some form of communication. And ultimately, I think that's really the only thing that's going to bring people to the table. If you think the mob bosses and gangs, they, no matter how in the heat, even when you go back to wars, there were people that sat down at the table to discuss, what can be done. And I mean, it has to happen as black men, especially people that want the best for each other. If we stop looking at each other like, oh, you think I'm this or you think I'm that, and start looking at something like, well, this person has the best, has the best intentions for me, or they want the best for me. When they're just, they're on the other side of a situation trying to, get the solution, because everybody's trying to get the solution. It's just they're going in their own way.
Yeah.
But you can't go in your own way. You got to go together. So you got to talk. You got to communicate. So I would say communication still is going to be the main way for black men to grow as a whole. Communicating your problems. And, it's coming from me because I'm in finance, and I had a goal was my goal, or my understanding of finance was I wanted to come out of it and be able to give our people the solutions to put themselves in better financial situations. So, my whole premise when I work with people is communicating to them the best solutions. Do they listen? Not always.
Not always.
So on the other side of communicating, you have to take in what's being told to you. You have to take in what you're hearing. Whether you're gonna do with what's recommended or not. Yeah. That's just up to the individual person. But you got to put yourself in a situation where you can at least talk and understand, each other before you can grow with people.
Okay. I love that. Yeah. I really do. Because what I put up, I think yesterday, is what Rick Ross said. He said, I don't want to move fast. I want to move correctly. And there's an African proverb that says, if you want to move fast, go alone. If you want to move slow, you got to go together. And I think in this slow walk that we got to do with black men, it's a lot of us that's trying to run. It's a lot of us that's crawling. It's a lot of us that's jogging. It's a lot of us that's walking. So at some point, we're going to have to either connect arms and slingshot some people forward so it can be like a move forward. And I think that's what we got to do. We got to either wait for some people, or we got to show people how to get to where we are. We got to let them know, like, yeah, we just got done walking. Now we jogging. How you going to get there? Either you watch what I'm doing, or you figure it out by watching and also figuring out on your own at the same time.
Right.
So thank you for saying that. And I like how you connected war, mob bosses, because in the heat of all the stuff that we know about mob bosses, gangs and all that, the heads of the families or the heads of whatever, they sit down with each other and be like, hey, bro, come on, man. Like, they have those kind of conversations. Yeah, it may be in movies. It may be a little different in real life, but movies don't get it from just out of thin air. That has happened. Right. So they have conversations. They communicate. They say, hey, bro, you stepping in my area. I'm going to need you to chill. You got people in your area coming over here. I'm going to need you to tell them to chill out. And they be like, all right, cool. And that's a conversation. I don't think we're there yet. We're not at the conversation stage we at the stage of what Nipsey Hussle always said. I'm looking for somebody that look like me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, bro, I gotta love you first.
Mm-hmm.
And you gotta ask yourself, do I love myself? Because I'm looking for somebody that look like me. I ain't looking for nobody else.
All right.
So that I love you for saying that. And I do want to go into the next space before we end. Is that I want to elevate you and your work. I don't know if you have. I know tax season may have ended or just started or however it is, but what you got going on family wise, your personal self, work wise, anything you got coming up the pike yet?
Ultimately, like I said, I'm a tax accountant. I work for Gambling Associates. Work with small businesses, individuals that starting out. We're always here to assist with growing with companies. So that's on the business side. Other than that, man, studying to be a CPA is like the other piece to my repertoire that I'm trying to grow. I'm currently an EA, basically certified to represent people in front of the IRS and practice in front of the IRS. So that's my main goals right now. But as you grow and you fulfill your dreams, you have new ones. So I'm definitely in the space of growth, especially over the next couple of years.
Okay, brother, I do want to say thank you, and I appreciate everybody for listening to my brother from another mother. And we all know that, like I said, this brother's good with the numbers. So Gamble and Associates, please check him out. I do want to plug a lot of things for Urban Thinker Media. Please follow us on Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube channel at Urban Thinker Media, and also check out our website. We have a lot of guests that we've had before. We also have some upcoming content and everything else that we have for and about Black men and boys. So I do want to say thank you all and see you all next time with another brother here on the MiddleBrotha podcast. Peace.